welcome to the Jeremy Mullins podcast. I am Jeremy. I am your host. I'm here today with Mr. Montae Kaufman, my partner in crime, inside of the First Form app underneath our umbrella of Team Alpha.
Good morning, Jeremy. Good morning, everybody.
Hey, how was your weekend at HQ?
It was a good time. It was awesome. Anheuser-Busch, really nice facility. Usually we do it at the Ritz. It was a change up of scenes, but really nice place. Cool. Got to
Yep.
go take pictures with the Clydesdales, which looks like a pony standing next to me.
I was going to say, when the picture you posted of you and your wife, and you're saying Clydesdale, I'm like, is he referring to the horse or himself? I mean, because,
Well, it's funny.
6'8", 300 pounds.
I looked at everybody else's picture standing next to it. I'm like, that looks like a big horse. And then my picture next to it, I'm like, they brought a different horse in the room.
It's like a little pony. It's
Yeah.
all right. It looked like an awesome time. I hate to miss it, but reality is I probably missed it even if I was at headquarters. Was on some military orders, teaching our course, which is pretty exciting this year. And I don't know if I've mentioned that on the podcast. So we were one of 4 states to win funding, or I don't want to say win, earn funding for the H2F program. So we have funding for our OIC and our NCOIC this year, along with extra funding for our SMEs, which is our subject matter experts to do education, throughout the state, throughout the year. And we're really looking at this as a way to prove, because Compo 1 or Big Army is proving that, having dietitians, strength and conditioning coaches, athletic trainers, wellness people taking care of soldiers is getting the soldiers back in the fight faster, keeping them healthy over long term, and then also, preventing financial strain secondary to health issues or later on in life because we're educating the soldiers. So we're really taking it upon ourselves, in being one of the 4 states to show that this works, so that we hope that all in the future 50 states will get funding to have, dietitians, strength and conditioning coaches, athletic trainers, PTs to work with soldiers. So big year for us and for me on that side of things. So still missed you.
Yeah, we missed you. Everybody missed you.
I'm glad you brought me a beer though.
I did. I actually got a
Nice.
couple of them. We were walking out at the end of the night. We shut down the party. And some of the employees came out. They had carts of 6-packs and we're like, hey, these are all extra. Y'all can take them. So
Yeah. And you're like, I got to get Jeremy one. I like it.
yeah.
Hey, today we have a Q&A session for the listeners. We always love these, get good feedback on it. And these are generally questions that Montae and I just kind of, write down that we get, inside the app or on social media that come through to us. And it's a great way to educate on, what I would consider sometimes the basic questions that are asked. And right now, and we're not going to go into today because we didn't have enough time, I eventually want to discuss the new quote unquote food guide pyramid. And I don't know why it is such drama with people right now. Like, I have no idea. Like, no one cared in 92, and no one cared when My Plate come out. Like, so I don't know if it's our political climate right now that everyone's making a big deal out of it, but it is just, I don't know. I'm like, my mind is blown with the stuff that I'm seeing posted.
I agree. Everywhere you look, there's people arguing about it, this and that. I'm like, we're eating more protein. We're eating more fruits and veggies.
Yes. And the big thing is what? Yes. Listen, no one followed the food guide pyramid. No one really followed My Plate. That's the thing, right? So just because we've got this, that maybe a lot of us that are in the space of eating, hey, your base of your meals and snacks should be protein and should be fruits and veggies, right? Like, I think the people in that camp are like, wow, we finally got this change. But then there's others that like, I don't know. It's like, well, it's always been like this. Yes, to a degree. But remember, at the bottom of the food guide pyramid, when we was telling everybody to eat 6 to 11 servings of grains a day, people were having orange juice, cereal, fruit, and a muffin for breakfast and thinking that was healthy. And the problem was we went away from the real foods of the whole grains and went to the more simplified, simple versions of those carbohydrates. And the data is out there as far as you could look at the average consumption of simple processed carbohydrate in the average American diet, what it is now versus what it was in the 1970s, 1980s. You can also look at fruit and veggie consumption from the same time until now. It's went down, right? So the big takeaway here is to eat more good quality protein and eat more good quality fruits and veggies. And when you do have grains, make sure they're whole grains, not simple processed carbs.
Sounds like something we've been educating on for a long time.
I know. All soapbox to the Q&A for today. Hey, Monte, should I weigh myself every single day?
Oh, that's a good one. My answer to this, it really depends on how you look at the scale and how you let it affect you. Me personally, I used to not be able to do that because I would get very discouraged and it would make me quit. Me today, I honestly, I weigh myself pretty much on every day, but I've gotten to the point where I look at this as a data point and I started using it like I'm very, very competitive. So I use it as a motivation. So if I step on the scale and it didn't move, I'm like, okay, I got to go harder today. And if I step on it and it went down, I'm like, okay, we're going to keep doing things right. But if I ever step on it, and it does go up, once again, back to that competitive, like, hey, I got to go a little bit harder today. But also, I know there's many different reasons why that scale could have popped up. Maybe I, consume more carbohydrates. Maybe I had more sodium in the diet. Maybe I had a really, really hard training session or even a bad night's sleep. So I understand and I don't get discouraged by it and let it, make me fall off the game plan or quit per se. So it really just, the answer to that is really just depends on how this scale affects somebody. But is it required? No, we don't need to do it every day. What we, the main thing is looking at those trends over time and that week to week weigh in on the scale, when you're sending, an assessment with your advisor or just, trying to see how that weight is really moving, just that trend over time.
Yeah. No, I love that. It's almost like wearables. I have wearables to do as a podcast coming up because, wearables can be great information. But if you get emotional by your number, right? Let's just use Whoop, for example. It gives you a green score and you're like, okay, I'm recovered. I should have this great fitness day and performance day. And it doesn't happen. You're like, what happened? I was recovered. But on the flip side, it could be red, and you're not recovered and go out and have great performance, even though this is supposed to be an indicator of what performance is, right? So I really like that. And I would summarize it as if you're new to your wellness journey and weight loss is a goal, right? Or if you have any emotional attachment to that scale, weigh in once a week, weigh in at the same time, try to get it under the same circumstances, and then just watch trends on once a week. Further you long are, or the further you are in your journey, and as you mentioned, Monte, like for you, you just want to learn these things, right? You want to learn, okay, when I have more carbohydrate, I fill up my muscle glycogen stores, my scale is going to be up. I do a hard leg workout, I'm inflamed, the scale is going to be up, right? So I think those are things or examples of what you were saying when it depends where you're at in your journey.
100%.
Okay. I got 4 questions for you today. That was one, and you said it depends. You can only say it depends one more time. Okay.
All right.
So
Straight,
I'm changing.
straight cut to the point.
Yeah. Now you can give examples, but I'm not going to let you out with that because we could almost with everything be like, well, it depends under the circumstances, which it does. So I'm going to go one more with you, and then you can flip it over. Give me a couple. Um, if I eat after 11 o'clock, it's automatically going to go to fat, right?
Incorrect.
Oh, but I
Incorrect.
thought I turn. Oh no, no, I turn into a gremlin after 12. That's what happens.
Yeah, I've definitely done that before. But no, it's not going to directly turn into fat. At the end of the day, no matter what you're eating, what you're consuming, it's going to come down to the energy balance, calories in versus calories out. And there's been times, and I always give like personal experiences for me because I used to struggle with these same things. And then when I finally did it and learned it, I understood more. So there's been times I ate right before bed, a full meal. And I think a lot of that comes from, people, when you look at what more like most people eat after 11 o'clock or late at night before bed, most people aren't eating something like some egg whites and some blueberries, right? What's happening? We have hunger and cravings. We're sitting on the couch, we're binge watching Netflix, and we're eating chips, cookies, ice cream, and all these things that are running those calories through the roof. And I think a lot of people feel that if you eat late, you're going to gain body fat or gain weight because of that. And I feel like that's what the not research, but that's what those studies and things like show is those people are consuming the simple carbohydrates, the sugars, candies, and the I don't want to say bad foods, but the foods that don't align with their goals, and it's ultimately putting them over their calories for the day.
Yeah. We see this sometimes, like if people, quote unquote fast or skip breakfast or they're really busy in the day and they don't eat. and then they get home at night and be like, man, I just consume all my calories, at night. But yeah, there's not. Now, you could go down rabbit holes, and I get it. There's some stuff out there, that some people do respond better, to eating their food earlier in the evening, early in the night, having plenty of time to digest that food, before bed because they sleep bed. But on the flip side, you can find just as many people that like to consume something right before they go to bed, because it helps them sleep better, and that could be a protein based meal where they recover better. So we got people in each camp, that are producing results and that are feeling good, that eat late or don't eat late, right? But I think, like you mentioned, it's incorrect that if you eat a certain amount of time or eat food at a certain amount of time, that it's automatically going to be stored as body fat.
Agreed.
I like it.
All right.
All right, shoot.
For you, now you can actually tie this question into the one we just talked about. Is protein powder necessary?
It is not necessary at all. And I think what we like to say is the only time a protein shake or protein powder in this question is going to trump a real food would be the post workout setting, right? Because we are trying to provide the body with nutrients that it needs. And assuming the person didn't do a protein shake before the workout, okay? Because that's where a little bit of the mixture of the research is like, we don't need a protein shake post workout to optimal recovery if you do one before. Okay, well, gotcha, but we're using powder in both cases. So we generally are in the camp of, hey, we would like to see a protein shake in the post workout setting because that protein shake is going to digest really quick because it's already in powder form, providing your muscles with the amino acids that it needs to stimulate and start that recovery process, right? And you're getting the synergenic effect of muscle protein synthesis, not only from the workout, if it was a resistance training workout, but also from consuming that protein. So it's almost like a double whammy in that synergenic effect of two stimuli of muscle protein synthesis in the post workout setting. Any other time, protein shakes are just convenient and quick protein options. Okay. When I travel, for the military, or travel in general, I will drink a lot more protein shakes than I do when I'm at home. Generally, when I'm at the house, it is just in the post workout setting. That's the only time that I'll do a protein shake. I am on a kick right now where I'm doing a protein shake in one of our pro bars, just for quick easiness in the morning. Because a lot of times Katie has to be on campus. Like this morning, she had live batting practice where she was throwing to the student athletes. So she had to be there early. I got to get 3 kids up, get them to 3 different schools, along with my morning stuff. So it's just quick and easy. So I have been in that routine, here lately. But once again, that kind of varies based on what's going on in life.
I'm gonna slide in a second layer to this question, but it's still one question. And you can keep it short. You don't have to go into detail with anything, but how many protein shakes is it okay to have in a day?
There's no limit for say, right? Like you could drink 5 shakes and it not hurt you and it not be like detrimental. But we always like to joke, as a rule of thumb, try to eat more real food meals than you do protein shakes. Just as a rule of thumb, day in and day out, right? Especially if you're new, because we've really said this, over the years working for a supplement company. Our goal, yes, is to produce results, but it's also to educate you for long-term success. So if you don't see yourself drinking 2 shakes a day during the week for the rest of your life while you're working, don't drink 2 shakes a day. But on the flip side, we've had people say, Montae, Jeremy, like, I can see myself drinking 2 shakes a day because I'm on my feet. I work at a factory. I don't really have time to eat. So it's very convenient for me to grab a shake and eat some blueberries or grab a shake and eat a banana or an apple. Because once again, those are already, quote, when you think about how easy it is to prep a banana, right? I mean, I'm not like, it's not a joke. I know a lot of listeners are probably like, Jeremy, you don't have to do much. I know, that's my point, right? So we do have people that just say that, like, hey, it's going to be much convenient for me to do this. And it's totally fine, right? From that aspect. But as a rule of thumb, we don't like to see more shakes than real food because we don't feel like that's going to be sustainable for most people.
Yeah. Except the days when you moved my protein up to 500 grams. There was a lot of shakes being consumed.
A lot
All
of shakes,
right.
a lot of shakes there.
Next question. Jeremy, I'm busy with work, traveling, I have a lot going on. I only have 4 hours to work out this week. What should I do?
Man, this one hits hard. This one hits hard because you and I talk about, at the end of the year, we always look at, hey, what are we doing well in our education, in our curriculum, in our practice, and what are we struggling with, or what could we do better? And I think we can do better with this question, when people ask it. And what I mean by, we have a great system of what to do to produce results, right? Hey, I need you to get 45 to 60 minutes of walking in every single day. I need you to do resistance training, 3 to 5 sessions per week. And I need to get your heart rate up a couple of times a week. That works really well for fat loss. But I understand some people don't have that time, right? Especially if like that hour walking is like separate from their daily life, right? They're not going on their lunch break or during work while they're talking on the phone and taking care of business, like double dipping like we encourage, because then that would be 10, 15 hours a week. And I understand people don't have that. So if you are under a circumstance, and truly under a circumstance, do not take this as, well, oh, I'm busy and you're watching, flipping TV 6 hours a week, or you're scrolling on your phone 6 hours a week. Okay. You have to be honest with yourself. But I've been in this situation. You've been in this situation. We've seen clients in this situation where, hey, you're working 12-hour days because you're leading a conference. Then you got to get home, get the kids to practice or to school or whatever. Like there is days that you might only be able to carve out 3 to 4 hours a week. So what does that look like? I would probably say, hey, 2 of our hours need to be full body weight routines, right? So you need to do, a couple of exercises, 4 sets each of every single body part, and make that a full body part, minimal rest. So the heart rate's getting up a little bit as we're doing our resistance training for full body workouts. Then what I would say is, depending on what your goals are, there needs to be another resistance training session that might be targeting a certain area or targeting a certain strength or power that you're working on, along with a high intensity cardio session. So something short, something intense on that day. And then another session that would be just like an hour long cardio. That if it was 4 hours, that would probably be what I would give someone. So two full body workouts, along with one day that would be resistance training based on their goal or what they're working on, with a high intensity cardio session in that hour. And then one day that would just be that continuous movement of cardio, right? That could be walking with a vest on, that could be walking, that could be running, bike riding, whatever. That would be my 4 specific hours in that case.
I like the two full body workouts because then you're still getting the volume on each body part that you would
Yep.
do if you were splitting up, a 6-day program where you're hitting arms twice, legs twice.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah. And I think that's something that's overlooked a lot, because we get it. And once again, it goes back to your goals. So if you come to me and you want to put on muscle tissue, yes, are we going to need more than 2 full body workouts a week? 100%. But if we're older, okay, we're in our 40s, 50s, 60s, and we're just trying to maintain muscle and maintain strength, 2 full body workouts will do that, because you're still hitting those muscles and you're still hitting in the volume that we'd be doing if they were spread out. So, just keep that in mind, and you can have success. So for those that, have been around, and don't get frustrated if you can't do the quote game plan exactly like we listed out. Now, with that being said, I think most people can find 45 to 60 minutes a day in their routine or in their day to go for a walk, especially when it can be broken up.
I was
I
gonna say
just,
these days things like, well, I mean, not everybody might not be able to fit them or might be out of budget, but there's like some cheap walking pads out there. I know a lot of people are doing that these
yep,
days. So they're sitting in their living room, watching TV with their family and everything, just getting some
yep.
extra steps in that way, and they just slide it under the couch.
Yeah, but I do know that people go through phases where, once again, because when we say an hour in the gym, Monte, there's also the understanding there. Hey, you got to drive to the gym, you got to change, so it's not 4 hours, right? It's a little bit longer than that, because that's the reality. It's going to take some time.
100%.
All right, sliding back to you, because you kind of hit me on this early and you kind of set me up for this one. When I gave you 500 grams of protein, okay, everyone has to remember this. Monte's 300 pounds. When he's lean, he's 300 pounds. Well, a little less than three.
Yeah.
What'd you get down to?
284.
Okay. So, it's relative in when we say 500 grams of protein. Okay. There's only been a few people I've gave 500 grams of protein, and both of them are 6'7", 6'8" individuals, right? More body mass. But why, Monte, did you increase my protein 50 grams a day twice already in our journey? When you just did education to everyone, you said that you recommend 1 gram of protein per goal body weight. I'm currently at 300 grams of protein, and my goal body weight is 200.
So the 1 gram per pound of target body weight of protein, that's a starting point. And I start people there because we found that that's a good, happy medium for people to maintain muscle tissue while, in a calorie deficit or even, building muscle tissue. But typically when I increase it, because I mean, we've seen multiple times with hundreds of individuals that we've worked with that when we start to increase that protein, results kind of take off and skyrocket. And I start at the lower instead of, starting at the higher. Because if you were to just come to me, Jeremy, and you're like, this is my goal, and I say, okay, we'll eat 300 grams of protein. What's the number one thing people struggle with when they start a journey?
They're going to have a hard time getting that in because most
They're gonna,
people are going to struggle at 200.
yeah, they're going to struggle. So if I set them up at 300, we think about the fall off rate. A lot of people quit 2 days in. And a lot of it is because they are not perfect. They're not hitting those numbers. So if I'm pretty much setting you up for failure if I say go eat 300 right off the bat. But as soon as that I see that you can do that and you can do that consistently, I'm going to start to play around with increasing that. And the reason we increase it is because you think about protein and, one of the ways we burn calories is through the thermic effect of food. Well, protein has the highest thermic effect of food. It is not easily stored as, in the body. So increasing that, you're going to burn more calories throughout the day just by increasing it. It's not going to affect your fat loss. You're going to notice way less hunger, which is going to help you stay consistent, not go off the game plan. And you're going to produce better fat. I mean, it's going to be way better results when you do that. So that's why I start or we start where we do, and then why we like to increase it once we see that. Because it's not a fuel source. You're not going to use it as fuel. You're not going to store it as body fat. Increasing it, you just burn more calories throughout the day.
I mean, eating an extra 100 grams of protein a day is like walking 8.5 miles extra a week.
That's a
Pretty crazy numbers, right?
fun
Now,
stuff.
let me break that down. When you walk a mile, the average person burns about 100 calories. Okay, so it's just once again, someone a little bit heavier. You can say, well, what if I walk faster? Well, you just finish the mile faster, right? So it didn't take you as long. So the amount of energy, so it has been shown that roughly a mile traveled by a human being will burn 100 calories. Okay, once again, give or take. Thermic effect of food, as you mentioned, is roughly 30% with protein. So when we eat 100 extra grams of protein at 4 calories per gram, that's 400 calories. So for every 100 calories, we're burning 30 calories. 30 times 4, 120. 7 days a week, 100 extra 20 calories, 840 calories. Almost 8.5 miles you would have to walk to burn 840 calories that you're going to do during the week by increasing that protein above baseline. And in this case, we're using 100 gram as an example, which is something that we do. As you mentioned, we don't do it right out the gate. It's generally within 2 or 3 increases, to get that client up to that number during a fat loss phase. And they don't stay there. They'll come back down based on where they're comfortable at. We do have people stay there because they just like it. I've got all kinds of females that are at 200 grams of protein that are in maintenance because they just love the way they're eating.
Yeah, I have some 225, and we're like making adjustments as we
Ooh,
go. We're going through
yeah,
adjustments. I'm like, hey, we're adding, we got to our goal. We're reversed out of it. We're maintenance right now.
yeah.
Even some of them going into a bulk. And I'm like, do you want to decrease your protein so you can have more room for, some fuel sources? And they're like, no, we can up the fuel, but I'm still eating my protein. I'm like, all
They
right.
love it. Yeah, because I mean the volume of food and they feel better. So I get it. All right, next question is for that new client. And right now, I don't know if it's social media once again, if it's some of the new data research coming out on the neurological and the mind when it comes to creatine and supplementation. But what is the amount of creatine that you recommend to a new client? What is the range? And how does that, someone just asked that right out of the blue. How much creatine should I be taking?
That's awesome. Question. So for the person just starting off, a lot of times, I'm just going to start 5 grams just to start off. And it really depends. That's my other one. It depends. So I almost got away with not doing it. But I say this because size plays a role. So if there was somebody that came in that was 6'8", 300 pounds, and they wanted to use creatine, I might start them off at 10 grams. So typically it's about 5, but a larger individual, 10 grams. And if they've been using it before and I just had somebody come on yesterday who's already using creatine. He's been using it for a long time, 5 grams. And the first thing I said was go ahead and up that to 10 grams.
Yeah.
And for the new person, younger individual wanting to build muscle, burn body fat, I might not even mention it right off the gate if they don't ask about it. Because you think about it, they're new to it, they're new to strength training. They're probably going to see some of those newbie gains anyway. And I know there's a lot of other benefits to creatine as well outside of that. But I might not even bring it up in the beginning because they're going to be new to it. They're going to see some newbie gains. They're going to be good to go. But if somebody's, 40 plus years old and we're trying to protect muscle at that point, then yeah, 5, 10 grams. If they've been training for a while, 5, 10 grams, depending on their size.
And there was a message in our Facebook group. Someone was asking on timing of creatine, and my answer was, "Hey, take it any time you want to." And someone made a comment, about a side effect of bloating. And while that it can be true, it was more in the statement that it was going to happen. So I kind of chimed in. It was like, "Hey, this is not going to happen. It could be, what I've only seen is maybe 5 to 10% of people actually have, GI bloating from creatine. So it's a small percentage of people that's actually going to have bloating. Now, will there be water gain on the scale? 100%. But as far as the GI bloating, it's a small percentage of people that does occur. And generally, what we'll do there is spread the dosage out. So someone might be taking 10 grams at one time, that causes some bloating. So you just kind of spread that out over the day. Or even if 5 grams causes an issue, you could do half a scoop. That's with assuming the serving size is 5 grams. You would do a half a scoop, in the morning, half a scoop in the evening, and that can help if you are that small percentage that are going to have some GI bloating from starting creatine monohydrate.
Correct. Yeah, I get a lot of people come in, they're like, "Hey, I heard it's going to do this," and they've never tried it before. And I'm like, just try it out. Make sure you get,
Yeah.
micronized creatine monohydrate. And then like, oh, I tried it out. It was good. I can tell the scale went up a little bit, and I'm like, you look better, you feel better, your performance better. Like, yeah, and I'm like, that's the point of it. It's doing what it's supposed to be doing.
Yeah. 100%.
All right. So, two more questions for you.
I know I was trying to think did you already ask me? I know we said we had four
Uh,
or five apiece. I'm like, did you already ask me? All right, more. Send
all
them.
right, Jeremy, man, I do so good during the week, but why do the weekends ruin my progress?
Oh, uh, if the weekends are ruining the progress, I think this is because this individual hasn't made that commitment to it being a lifestyle, and those weekends look like they used to. And what I mean by that is, there could be a half a pizza and beer, and we're just consuming way too many calories, which is easy to do, especially if like you're eating out, right? And I just think right now, being football season, the playoffs for college football, well, I guess playoffs for college football and for the pro football. You could easily do 3 or 4 thousand calories at a tailgate party. So I think that is where people really lose it, as far as not seeing progress. Okay. Um, Now, can the weekends be a little bit higher? Because this is something that I've really noticed in my maintenance people. I used to be big on when we went into maintenance that, okay, let's just say we're 1,800 calories to lose weight. We'd go into maintenance and we're at 2,400 calories first, and then we might bump it up, see how they go. And I'm like, okay, I want to keep every day consistent. I have learned that some people do better by keeping it on 1,800 calories during the week and then allowing themselves 2,800 calories on the weekend, right? And they can maintain that way. So I don't want to think people, that you can't have some of these things on the weekends or make that work. But when we see that it's causing you not to progress, it's generally because the weekends are so different than what your week looks like. Okay. So for that, it's a lot of times it's like, hey, it's you got to plan it out. You got to work on your discipline. You got to plan it out. You got to have a plan for the weekend. For most people, weekends look a little bit different during the week, and that's where they get in trouble. There's this false sense that I'm going to have all this time on the weekend, so I don't have to plan my meals out. I don't need to know exactly when I'm going to work out. And then what happens is life happens, right? Like, and then all of a sudden you're behind on protein. You're at a party, you're out, doing errands, and next thing you know, you just had a 2,000 calorie meal because that's what you used to do, right? So I think that's where we see people, get in trouble during the weekends because it is going to come down to that average calorie and protein intake over the course of 7 days. So if you're not seeing progress, that could be the reason why.
I agree 100%. I think too, sometimes we have those weekends, and then we mentioned it earlier, you get on the scale Monday morning after having a weekend, the scale's up a little bit, you're discouraged. And then what is it like? I know in the past it's caused me to just keep eating in that way because I was upset about it. And
Yeah.
I think that plays a role in it too. So then we don't get back to being consistent.
Yeah, and we're big on this year, and we're really pushing within our team. It's one day at a time. Win more days than you lose. That's the biggest thing. Don't lose 2 days in a row, and then don't have a 0 day. And Monte, a 0 day is what I'm defining as like, everything's good, and then maybe this weekend I go out to eat and I have French fries, right? Well, the key is to stop that slide right there. Okay, I still work out. I still hit all my other meals. I just had French fries, and I said I wasn't going to have French fries. When we stopped at the kids' Chick-fil-A. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's still a good day, right? I still did good that day. I didn't win it based on what my parameters are right now, but it's still a good day, right? And what I see is more or less, okay, someone misses their Saturday morning workout because they sleep in, and then they're just like, screw it. And then the rest of the day, it's, 4,000 calorie day and no movement, right? That's a 0 day,
Yeah.
so it's like, hey, let's, minimize the damage when we do fall off, and then don't lose 2 days in a row. If you can do that, you're going to be setting at the end of the year in a much better place mentally, physically, financially, and then of course, with whatever your goals are.
Yeah, something I started doing with that too is like you mentioned the French fries, is that being the fall off or whatever. You think about it, for someone's focusing on fat loss, right? We have them in a calorie deficit. Say they eat that order of French fries. At most, that order of French fries might put you up to a maintenance, right?
You're 100% right.
It might put
Yes.
you up to a maintenance. So then what? Like we might not lose as much as we would have lost, but we're not gonna also go out and gain. So
It's
you get
this
right back on
it's
track.
this it's the self-sabotage that comes after that one small mistake,
Correct. That's
right?
that's when the calories get out of control. That's when we actually do not lose the weight or even go and gain weight.
100%. Great, great point.
All right, last question. Jeremy, why am I not losing weight even though I'm eating healthy?
Oh, this kind of goes back to our opening soapbox on the food guide pyramid, right?
Yeah.
Because what is healthy is the big definition that you have to address, right? Because everyone has a different philosophy based on culture, based on education, based on a lot of different factors that go into it. What is healthy, right? So that's the first thing. That's the conversation I'm going to have with the client is, okay, what is your definition of healthy? Because it could go back to the analogy that we were using earlier, that getting up in the morning and having cereal, a fruit, orange juice, and a Pop Tart, to that individual is healthy because it is very low fat. Okay. So in that person's mind, what they deem as healthy is low fat diet.
Well,
Okay.
you
Now
see it
there's
on
just
labels too. You see it on labels. It's labeled fat free,
heart healthy.
heart healthy.
Yes. So that's the biggest thing when I hear that, right? Or I got a message on Instagram yesterday. Let's flip that, right? Hey, is carnivore diet good for fat loss, right? I'm like, in my answer to it is this: it's going to come down to the average calories in your protein intake. Because remember, with protein, it's vital to consume enough protein so that we maintain our muscle tissue during a fat loss phase. So if we're looking at losing weight, as this person is asking the question, we have to hit a certain amount of protein so we maintain our muscle tissue during the caloric deficit. And then it's average calories. So, that's what we got to look at. So if someone's eating healthy, but they're not losing weight, most of the time we're consuming too much calories and probably not consuming enough protein. Okay. Now, can there be cases that someone's gaining some muscle tissue and dropping some body fat? Yes, but we're going to see that in progress photos. But a lot of times in that question, when I've seen it over the years, we just have to really dig in and define what is healthy to that individual.
Agree. Because you look, I mean, marketing these days is just crazy. You look at some things and there's so many things that are
Dude.
marketed healthy. And I'm not going to say, I gave an example yesterday. I'm not saying like this goes to the healthy food or not, but like just thinking about protein in general and the things that are marketed, protein pancakes, protein waffles, protein this, and then you look at the label and it's 10 grams of protein and 42 grams of carbohydrates. And it's like not saying it's not healthy, but it's just the marketing behind things. Like things will say healthy, and even though like trust me, it's a lot harder to do, but you can even eat the healthiest of foods and still overconsume calories.
Listen, I'm gonna call out today on social media, Subway, right? Because then when their new commercials for their protein wrap, okay, they say 200 grams of protein. They're doing that based on the weight size. But I feel like it's false advertising so that someone thinks in that small wrap there's 200 grams of protein, not 200 grams on the scale. And we're going to see this with all companies right now because of the change of the food guide pyramid. So it's like, don't try to trick, like you're healthy, in relative terms, like you have Whole Foods at Subway. Just be real. Don't try to trick using via these 200 grams of protein. Yeah, 200 grams in weight, but that's just going to confuse the average user.
That's crazy. What's funny is I actually, on the trip to St. Louis, I stopped in Subway and I didn't get this. I went to the fresh and fit menu. So it was like the chicken avocado.
Yeah.
I didn't see that wrap.
They
That's
have these. I think they're pockets, is what they're called, protein pockets. So it's a smaller wrap. $3.99. So price is good, and like 25 to 30 grams of protein. Protein in grams as far as protein. But what I saw the
yeah,
commercial
yeah.
was 200 grams in weight. Once again, I feel like that, and I could be wrong. Subway, I apologize if that was not the intent. But most people are not thinking of protein in grams on a scale.
Correct. Someone like you or I go in there, like if I see that, if I would have seen that, I would have said, okay, there is 200 grams of weighed out protein on that sandwich.
Yeah.
If I would have been like, there's 200 grams of protein in there, I would have been like, what did they do to those chickens?
So that is like, and we're going to see more of that because of marketing with those changes. So just everybody be aware of it. Educate yourself and just know that it's coming. So hope you guys and gals enjoyed this Q&A session today. We'll definitely do more Q&A in the past. We've got wearables coming up. I want to talk about some wearables. I want to talk about the new food guide pyramid. We got a few things we're going to talk about over the next few weeks. But hope you guys are having a great day. If you do have any questions for us, feel free to reach out.
Thanks, Jeremy.